Hello there, Star Wars fans. Jonesy here from the Hyperspace Database with today's topic, the STAP Mobile Transport. The STAP, or Single Trooper Aerial Platform, or STAP, was a repulsor-driven transport used by the Separatist Army prior to and during the Clone Wars, and was often used by B-1 battle droids as a reconnaissance vessel. The STAP was developed by the Boctoid Armor Workshop, which was responsible for developing other droid products like the Vulture droid and Hyena-class bomber, as well as the AAT tank and the MTT transport, and as well as most of the other droid units of the CIS. It was modeled after the popular civilian air hooks, which were used by many beings for travel in hard-to-reach locations, and with a top speed of 250 miles per hour and being armed with 2 blaster cannons, it served incredibly well as a patrol vessel, which could also quickly strafe ground units until more heavy artillery arrived. The STAPs were often seen deployed in groups to cover more ground in their scouting duties, and this information would then be transmitted back to a droid control ship in orbit to help further inform the deciding of landing zones and staging areas. The STAPs were also assigned as escort units to larger vehicles, as they were much more mobile than the slower tanks of the CIS, and they often performed mop-up duties when the battles were over. The STAP relied on its superior speed and maneuverability to compensate for its light airframe, as they were easily destroyed by enemy fire should an enemy manage to score a hit on the quick platform. Many STAP units were deployed during the invasion of Naboo seen in the events of the Phantom Menace, and they were used to patrol the city streets as the large multi-troop transports rolled down the main avenue of Theed to occupy the city. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi encountered several STAP units in the swamps outside of Theed, as they made their way from the Gungan city of Otoh Gunga to the Royal Palace to rescue the Queen. Obi-Wan's lightsaber had short-circuited, so it was up to Qui-Gon to eliminate the scouts. Several of these were later seen at the conclusion of the battle on the Great Grass Plains, when the Gungans had surrendered to the Trade Federation forces, but before Anakin flew into the Lucrehulk droid control ship and destroyed its main reactors. These STAPs were colored a neutral brown color at the invasion of Naboo, but were colored in the color scheme of the CIS Army during the Clone Wars, which was a blue color with white markings. After the start of the Clone Wars, these STAP units were seen on many different battlefields, and were sometimes commandeered by enemy forces, such as Jedi Knights, as Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi were fond of doing, and many other Jedi as well would make use of these mobile platform units. Interestingly, General Grievous was known to fly a modified version of the STAP that was a bulkier combat model. Grievous's Magna Guards were also known to fly these STAP platforms and use them to chase down Kenobi and Skywalker on the planet Utapau. The STAP is initially introduced in The Phantom Menace, but it also makes an appearance in several Star Wars comic books, novels, and video games, from the classic Battlefront series to the newer EA Battlefronts, and many games in between that feature the Trade Federation at Naboo and the battle droids during the Clone Wars. On that same note, the STAP unit makes a pretty rare appearance in the video game Star Wars Demolition, when the Jawa known as Wittin was able to reprogram a B-1 battle droid and use it to operate a STAP in Jabba the Hutt's Vehicle Gladiator Arena. A predecessor to the STAP was featured in the Old Republic video game, called the Longspur STAP, which was produced by the Longspur and Aloy Company. And they were a silver color, as well as being much beefier with their engine units to the side of the main cockpit, and they were weaponless. This is really cool. One of the first mentions of the STAP was in the first story treatment of Star Wars in May of 1973. George Lucas describes our main heroes traveling through a dense jungle planet on what he calls jet sticks. The initial name for the STAP was the Single Troop Armed Pogo Sticks, though the final design name for the Phantom Menace was the Single Trooper Aerial Platform, and its body design was modeled after the look of the lightweight Hummingbird, which flies at incredible speeds and is very maneuverable in flight. The Separatist STAP served its role incredibly well as a mobile scout and patrol vehicle, and were counted on for advanced recon and information gathering missions to aid the Trade Federation and the CIS Army in scouting enemy locations and assessing enemy strength, so that they could dominate on the battlefield with overwhelming numbers and superior firepower. If you want to know more about great Star Wars topics like this one, be sure to go to my channel and check out my other videos. Hit those like and subscribe buttons, and make sure to chat with me in the comments because I really like talking to you. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.